Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to Din Thomas, multi-talented man that he is, actor, former UFC fighter, commentator, show host. You got it all going on, Din. It's good to see you. How's everything over there?
It's good, man. I just got out of this cold weather that we've been experiencing. We've been experiencing one of the worst winters I've ever had in life. So it's pretty cold here. And I'm
That
in
is
Florida.
savage.
That's the problem. I'm in South Florida and it's cold. But I spent some time in Philly and it was absolutely blistering cold. And I'm so glad to be back in Florida where it's not that bad.
That's Christmassy, though, at least. I mean, it's like, in Die Hard and all those movies, like, where it's just,
Yeah, well, it was a white Christmas for sure, man. I'm telling you, the snow was coming down. I couldn't believe it. Like I've never really had a white Christmas like that.
So how's work going? You keeping busy at the moment? What's the next episode of Looking for a Fight looking like?
I think we are filming another episode of Looking for a Fight on St. Patty's Day in Boston. So that right now is the plan, is to go to Boston with Dana and Matt and just tear it up. And that's Dana's hometown, so he knows everybody. So we know exactly what we're gonna do. And I'm telling you, if it works out the way it does in my head, it's gonna be an episode you can't miss.
How does it work? Is there a little, I mean, it's normal, right? You guys discuss a little bit. Do you sometimes get a heads up, like we're going to be checking out this dude and he's supposed to be ridiculous? Do you have your eye on someone, or sometimes that total surprise, you're going to see what you find?
Well, we kind of leave that up to the matchmaker of the event. Say, listen, you got to get the best talent. And then they show us a list of the fights. And then there's normally 3 or 4 guys on there that are good enough to fight in the UFC. It's just a matter of how they perform that night. So, but then anybody can steal the show, right? So if we show up and then somebody just kind of steals the show, then Dana's like, man, get that guy. But the reality is that there's probably 3 or 4 fighters on there that they're really looking at, that the promoter says, man, you got to come check this guy out. So it's kind of their audition. And may the best man win at that point. But it's very difficult. It's a difficult way to make it, I tell you, because you can be good enough and then just have a bad fight, and then Dana goes, man, that's not the guy we want. And that's unfortunate, is that can happen. But also on the flip side, it works out for guys. Some guys I've seen, and to be honest with you, probably weren't that good, but had a good fight. And Dana was like, man, bring them on. So like it worked out for them.
I feel like you have a very cool life in what you do, what you've achieved. What was your highlight in terms of commentary, or your overall UFC highlight of this past year?
Oh wow, this past year. I mean, I got to tell you, going to London going to that UFC in London was amazing. And I think that was probably my highlight, just hanging out in London and being in that environment, and what Paddy Pimblett and Molly McCann did to that arena was electrifying. And they made the UFC seem like it was their regional show, but still with a big show. I mean, it was something like I've never seen before. So that was probably, just being there and working that event was probably my highlight.
It's funny as well because they're from the north, so it's like a bunch of New Yorkers coming and blowing up in LA as well. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it shows you the pool. We've had so many crazy things happen this year. I remember the UFC 279 drama with Khamzat. You had some interesting things to say about him. Like, is he as good as everybody says, or does he show during the way that went down that he's fallible and maybe he can be poked at by some of the other contenders?
Well, the reality is that he's human, and we have a tendency to want to make a fighter to be superhuman sometimes, right? So we have a tendency to do that. I remember we did that with BJ Penn way back when I fought him. Like after BJ beat me and he beat Kauno, I thought he was never going to be beat, right? So like we have a tendency to make these fighters look, unbeatable. And we kind of hope that's because we want that. We want a fighter to come out and just be unbeatable. So when Hamza came out and he was looking unstoppable, everybody got behind that and was like, yeah, man, this guy's, unstoppable, can't be touched. Unfortunately for him, Gilbert Burns was a bad stylistic matchup for him. because of Gilbert's jiu-jitsu. You know, when Khamzat got inside Gilbert's guard, he had to get up. He was like, yo, I feel something that I don't like here. And he had to stand with Gilbert. And Gilbert's a power puncher, so he's dangerous for everybody, and he's tough and he's durable. So Gilbert is just a really bad matchup for Khamzat. And Gilbert could have easily won that, not easily, but he could have won that fight. And he could win a rematch. So there are some things that Khamzat that Gilbert showed that Khamzat is human. He's a human fighter like everybody else. But is he as good as we thought he was? He is still damn good. Khamzat is a good damn fighter, and he's going to be hard to beat for anybody. But I think Gilbert Burns just matches up well with him stylistically because of his jiu-jitsu skills.
Who do you want to see Khamzat fight next?
Colby Covington. I would love to see him fight Colby. I mean, everybody says that. I think it's just because because not a lot of people really are fans of Colby, and they want to see Colby get beat up by Khamzat. I guess maybe even at the surface of that's the reason why I want to see it. But we all know how good of a fighter Colby is, and you know I think a very motivated and disciplined Colby could present problems to Khamzat as well. Like he's not a dumb fighter, but at the end of the day, I would like to see Khamzat fight Colby. I think that fight makes sense.
We've got UFC 283 on the horizon. It's a shame about Yuri, but do you think Jamahal Hill could deliver something special against Glover anyway? And sometimes we get surprises like that when fights fall out.
Absolutely. You know, Jamahal Hill has been under the radar for a very long time. And everybody has kind of slept on him. Everybody except for himself and his team. He's always had a belief in himself, and his team believes in him, and he believes in his team. I think that Jamahal Hill can go out there and deliver. I mean, he's got a tough fight ahead of him because Glover has the experience and he's dealt with fighters like Jamahal Hill before. But that doesn't mean Jamahal Hill can't surprise him, because Jamahal Hill has this uncanny ability to put his hands on people and have an effect, almost like no one else in the UFC, to where he puts his hands on people and it has an effect. And it doesn't look like he's doing much. He's just putting his hands on you, and the guys are like, ouch. His knockout of Johnny Walker, every time I watch it, I'm still like, I don't even know how that happened. I don't know how he did it. And when he knocked out Jimmy Crute, just those little shots, he touches you and he has an effect. He has incredible accuracy and that instinctive fighting ability to make things happen. He can beat Glover. He absolutely can. But I do think that Glover could be a style matchup that we haven't seen Jamahal Hill deal with yet. So we don't know how he's going to deal with that.
23 set to be a big year with Conor coming back as well. What's the right matchup for him in your eyes?
Rehab? No, I think Conor and Masvidal. You know, Conor and Masvidal, like, why would you not want to make that fight? Like, I love Michael Chandler. I think Michael Chandler is great. But in terms of where these guys are in their careers, we need fun fights, right? And I think Masvidal and Conor, the buildup of that would be just very similar to McGregor and Mayweather. Like it was a spectacle. The buildup was a spectacle. There were more people at the press conferences than most events have, fighting events have. And I think that with the savviness of both of those individuals, the way they talk and how good they are at talking and trash talking, you got to do this fight just for the trash talk alone. Conor and Masvidal is the fight I want to see in 2023.
I like the way you think, man. I've been saying this for years. Absolutely. That's 100%. It's going to be so much
fight,
fun.
Man. It's the fun that we want.
In terms of fight of the year, a lot of people looking at Islam Makhachev and Alex Volkanovski. How do you see it going?
Well, here's the thing. Alex is so smart, man. He's such a good fighter. He's so smart. He's so disciplined, and he's at the top of his game. I think a lot of people look at what Islam did to Charles Oliveira and kind of use that as a gauge to what he can do to Alex. And I don't think so. I think this fight is going to be closer than what a lot of people think. But with that being said, I do believe that Islam might be a little too much for him. I think his grappling might be a little too much for Volkanovski. And his length, he's going to be longer, so he's going to be able to pick from the outside and then just be able to. I think he's going to be able to have better moments in the ranges where he's most comfortable. I don't think he's going to shut Volkanovski out by any stretch of the imagination, but I can see him winning every round by a slight margin in a very pedestrian-like fight that I am going to love, that all the fight nerds are going to love, but the fans are going to be like, really? These are the two best guys in the world? But when you get two of the best guys in the world who are as cerebral as those two, those are the fights that we get. Cerebral thinking man type fighters. It's going to be a chess match. I think that neither of them can afford to make that big of a mistake, and because they're so good at capitalizing off of mistakes. If Alexander makes one mistake, he's going to lose the round. Like, that's a guarantee. He can't make a mistake or he loses the round. And the same thing goes in Islam. He makes one mistake, he might get knocked out. So these guys can't afford to make mistakes, and you're going to see that in the fight as you see how cautious and tactical they do fight each other. It's not going to be a barn burner like they would like us to believe, maybe.
I'm interested because you've been on both sides of the fence as a fighter as well as in media. What did you make of this beef between Paddy and Ariel Helwani? I saw Demetrius Johnson saying, I've never been paid for an interview before, Barstool, Rogan. So what do you make of it?
This is a situation where I think both guys are right. Both guys have a point. They both have a point, right? I mean, if depending on the type of media Ariel considers himself to be, like, he considers himself to be a journalist. Like, if you're the news, you obviously don't pay people to come on your show, right? You're the news, you're reporting the news. But if you're an outlet that you are making money off of your show, then that's kind of a little different. Now, I do the same thing. Like, I have shows in which I make money off of, and I respectfully ask fighters to come on, and I'm going to profit off of them coming on my show. I will. Now, Paddy was like, yo, these dudes are profiting off of me. I want to cut. Would I do that? Absolutely not. Am I mad at Paddy for doing that? Absolutely not. Will I ever have Paddy on one of my shows? Absolutely not. But I respect his hustle. I respect him for saying, hey, listen, if you intend to make money off of me, I want a piece of it. I respect him for saying that. I'm not going to give him any money, but I respect him for saying that. And Ariel can't have beef with him for that, because when Paddy's done fighting and his career's over, he's going to wish that he made all the money he could. So if Ariel don't want to have him on the show, just don't pay him. But you don't got to be mad at him. Just don't pay him. I'm not going to pay him. I'm not mad at him. I'm just not going to pay him.
That's some really interesting insight, man. Just to finish off, we're going to do a UFC quickfire, okay? So who's the hardest hitter in the UFC?
Francis Ngannou.
Is this
of all time? Yeah, he's the hardest hitter of all time anyway. So yeah.
You can go past or present. Who has the best fight IQ?
Alexander Volkanovski.
Who's the funniest?
Derek Lewis.
Who's the most annoying?
Colby Covington.
Who's the hottest?
The hottest? Diana Belbita.
You're on fire with the quickness. This is the quickest quick fire. Respect. Who would you most like to have dinner with?
I would most like to have dinner with Brandon Moreno.
And who has the best style, best dressed?
The best dress? Usman.
Who has the best hands?
Who has the best hands in terms of boxing? It changes so frequently. But I think right now, God, oh my God. I thought we was doing quick. I was quick, man. I don't know what happened to me. I lost it. Because the reason why I lost it is because I don't want to leave the person out who has the best hands. Alexa Grasso.
Nice. Who's the most interesting female fighter?
Most interesting female fighter? um, oh my God, I see her in my head. I can't remember her name right now. I see her in my head, but I can't remember her name. So I have to pick somebody else. The most interesting, yeah. I mean, I'm sorry to the one in my head, but to pick somebody else, I'm going to go with Man, this was rapid fire, man. Now you get me on girls, and now you know that's my weakness. The most interesting female fighter is
I'll come back to
come
you.
on, man.
I'll come back to
Do
you.
you have any examples?
Zhang Weili, Valentina Shevchenko. Yeah, I know that interesting. It depends what interesting is a very subjective word, right?
It is a very that's why I'm like wondering who I go with on that. It's very difficult, man, because so to me they're not very interesting. I mean, I'm not trying to knock them, but I'm just like they're not very, they're all pretty
Sure.
cookie cutter.
Sure.
Come back to me
Well,
on that one. I
all
want
right,
to
I'll
think
come
about
back.
that.
Okay, I'll
Again,
come back.
like I'm pretty quick, but man, some of them I gotta make sure I get it right, man. I can't give you the wrong answer on that.
That's a good point. Who would you most like to have by your side in a street fight?
Jared Gordon.
Which current fighter would you like to have in your corner?
Current fighter in my corner. Billy Quarantillo.
Who's the biggest sweetheart in the UFC? Who's got the biggest heart?
Current fighters? See, I was gonna say Alan Joban, but he's not current. So I am gonna have to go with do you know a lot of fighters, man? They are absolute scumbags. But there are some good ones. There are some good ones. So I think the biggest sweetheart in the UFC is Jesus. This is so difficult now because there's most of them are just absolutely I wouldn't want them, I wouldn't bring them home. But you might have to come back to me on that one.
All right. Who's got the coolest tattoos?
Who's got the coolest tattoos? Oh, he just got a new one, Cody Garbrandt.
And the
biggest
last
sweetheart, Aljamain Sterling.
Interesting. And
people don't realize that he's such a sweetheart. Aljamain is a sweetheart.
Most interesting female fighter?
Most interesting female fighter is.
If it's too difficult, we could just talk about in terms of style. Most interesting.
No. Listen, man, I'm not going to let you get away with this one. I got to find out who this is, man, because that's a really good question. I am like going crazy trying to figure this out. Who's the most interesting female fighter?
While you think about it, I'll ask you the last question, which is dream fight, past or present, any weight class.
Dream fight, past or present, any weight class. It would definitely be somebody from this generation. I would want to fight because I fought in an old school dude, so I need to fight one of these little young cats. I want to fight one of these dudes in the bantamweight division. I absolutely love the bantamweight division. So I'm gonna rattle off some names, and you could just pick from a hat of which one of these dudes I would fight. I would fight Chris Gutierrez. I would fight what's his name? Brandon. Damn, my brain is scrambled. This is from years of trauma, my man. Andrew, this is don't get hit for a living. So Chris Gutierrez, I would love to have fought him. Who else?
Brandon Royval.
Yeah, Brandon Royval. Brandon Royval. Yeah, see, there we go. I knew I was thinking Jonathan Martinez. Like all those dudes, man. Like those dudes are fantastic. So if I ever had an opportunity, man, like those are the guys that I would love to fight. You can just pick any one of them.
Some good picks. Brandon Royval's absolutely game, isn't he? Most interesting female fighter? You got an answer? I've taken too much of your time already.
I knew you was gonna come back to that. I can't believe I'm stumped on the most interesting female fighter. I'm trying to think of one that's like, you know, speaks different languages or is cool or you know what I'm saying? Like most of them ain't really all that cool. But
You don't think Valentina Shevchenko
I'm
is
so bad.
cool? Okay. Carla
Yeah, she's
Esparza,
pretty
Rose
cool.
Namajunas, Amanda Lemos, Jessica Andrade, Maria Rodriguez, Xiaonan Yan,
No,
Mackenzie Dern.
listen, I love Marina Rodriguez, but I don't know if she's all that interesting. Lupi Godinez. I love Lupi. That's my favorite one. Lupi. Why did I think of that for the first time? Lupi.
Respect. We got there. It's been a pleasure,
Yeah.
man.
Finally, Andrew. I appreciate you, man. I am sorry for taking so long on that one question. I'm sorry, man. I hope it worked out, but I appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me on.